Yo, what's going on, YouTube? And welcome back to Goal Line Hockey. It's your boy, Kevin Forte, and we are taking a look today at, you know how this usually works, right? We're going into the Stanley Cup playoffs, we're going into the summer for free agency. You know, there's always the goalie carousel, right? Where goalies move and change places and all that. Yeah, that's going to happen again this year. So we're going to look at some of the top names in terms of goalie free agents this year that are going to find a new home where they probably fit. We're going to go over that today. So we're going to start off here with up in Columbus, Joonas Korpisalo. Now, Joonas Korpisalo is an interesting one in the sense that ever since Elvis Merzlikins kind of got that extension to stay in Columbus, everybody's, Korpisalo just seems like the odd man out. And I think the expectation was he would get traded at the deadline. And for some reason, the Blue Jackets didn't trade him. Now, I don't know if that's because they thought they could still make the playoffs. They were still kind of in the mix, I guess. But it's kind of weird that they didn't trade him. Now, I guess there is the sentiment that they could trade him this summer, I guess, like trading his rights. But kind of a weird one there. I'm kind of a head scratcher still to this point. But maybe the Blue Jackets just didn't get enough value for him. I guess there just isn't that big of a market for him. Now we know back in the past, I think as soon as last year, Joonas Korpisalo was a heavy target for the Edmonton Oilers and Ken Holland over there in Edmonton. And that never really materialized, but I know that's something that could get brought up again this summer. They re-signed Mike Smith in Edmonton last year. They have Mikko Koskinen. Do they bring in Corpy? I think Korpisalo is a fit for the Oilers. I do think he's the guy that could come in there and kind of, take the ship there. And I'm not saying that's the best option necessarily, but that's kind of what you're looking at. And I think the Oilers, looking at who they could be looking at, I think the Oilers will look at Korpisalo. I think they're going to look at a guy like Holtby. He's a guy that they went after when he signed in Vancouver all that time back ago. I think it was 2020. He signed that 2-year deal in Vancouver before ultimately getting sent to Dallas when he, got bought out by the Canucks, and that kind of ship sailed. But I wonder if Ken Holland still looks at Braden Holtby as an option there. So that's kind of what you're looking at for the Oilers side of things. We've also heard some reports from Buffalo, and we know the Sabres are going to be looking for a goalie this summer. And, this is an interesting comment the other day, and I really liked it. So this is from Elliot Friedman. Buffalo has told Craig Anderson it would like to have him back next season. The Sabres are willing to wait on his timetable, see how he feels after the season. I don't think that's the best idea. Craig Anderson, he's played decent for the Sabres this year, but if the Sabres are looking to get better next year, I don't think this is the best option for them. Now, is this the most realistic option? Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, he picked the Sabres last year. But after a really tough season this year, I wonder how much is left in that battery for Anderson. He will likely be the backup to Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen, UPL, because I don't think UPL is ready for starting minutes as a goalie next year, and especially with the state that the Sabres are in, they're going to be very young next year with a lot of young guys. Owen Power in his first full NHL season, probably a top 4 D-man. You're expecting a lot there, and if you throw UPL in there as a goalie, it's going to ruin his development. Now, here's the other option here that I really like. Now, this isn't necessarily the most realistic because I don't know what Darcy Kemper's thinking. Darcy Kemper, right now he's in Colorado. He's been a really good goalie for the Avs, and he's a UFA this summer. And I think the Avalanche would like to keep guys like Nazem Kadri this summer. So if they do decide to keep Kadri and Burakovsky, it probably means that Kemper's got to go. Now, that leaves the Avalanche in a situation where they need to pick up a goalie this summer, and I'm going to get there in a second. We'll get there at the end of the video. I could see the Avalanche letting Kemper go, and we see a trade where we see, well, not even a trade, but we see Kemper going in free agency to the Buffalo Sabres. What do you guys think of that? Is that a stretch? Maybe, but if he's looking to get paid, right? And we know the Sabres do pay their goalies. We saw Carter Hutton get a pretty good payday. We've seen Ryan Miller get some good money in Buffalo. We've seen that happen in the past. So it's not really this shocking thing if they went down that route. I think Kemper would really fit well in the Royal and Gold. I think he's a really good fit there. But the question is, I guess, does Kemper want to go to the Sabres? And I think for any player, when you talk about them going up to Buffalo, that is part of the problem. They want guys that want to play in Buffalo, and that could end up being something that maybe Kemper says, I don't want to be a part of, right? So that's something to look at. Now, here's the thing. We talked about the Avalanche letting Kemper go. Well, I mean, truthfully, are you okay with Pavel Francouz being your starting goalie next year? And then, I guess, who's the guy that played at Penn State? He's been playing, I think, with the ECHL team, right? I don't even think he's been playing with the Colorado Eagles. He's been playing very low, but I think it's Peyton Jones or something like that. I mean, is that your third option, right? So that's what you're looking at there. So if they bring in a starting goalie, who could they bring in? Now this leaves me down to Washington. So this is from the Washington Capitals, and this is from Tariq El-Bashir. El-Bashir doesn't see the Capitals going into next season with their current tandem. Now, if you look at the Capitals' current goalie tandem, they brought back Vitek Vanacek, who got exposed in the expansion draft, and the Kraken took him in the expansion draft. The Kraken then sent him back after the expansion draft, I think for a second-round pick. So they have Vitek Vanacek and Ilya Samsonov. Now, Ilya Samsonov is an interesting name because I think there's a connection here. I could see the Capitals making a trade here in the summer with the Avalanche to trade Ilya Samsonov to Washington, to Colorado. Now, here's the thing. So you're looking at the Capitals right now, and you're looking at Samsonov. Samsonov right now is on the final year of his deal. Now, he is a restricted free agent, and his current contract is $2 million. Now, he is arbitration eligible, which is something to consider. He has played enough games for ARB, so that is something to consider. But considering he's 25 years old, his numbers haven't been all that great. He could get a lesser number than what Darcy Kemper's going to look for in the open free agency market as a unrestricted free agent. So that could be a benefit for the Avalanche if they're looking to get a guy to term. Ilya Samsonov could be that guy. Now, again, you're kind of playing with fire here because you're getting a goalie that's not necessarily guaranteed, but that's an option. And I think that's something that if you're looking at a younger goalie who you have some protection over this summer, that could be the guy that the Avalanche go for. So now that leaves the Washington Capitals. Well, what did the Washington Capitals do? The St. Louis Blues, you could probably include the Oilers among the teams interested in goaltender Ville Husso. And I did not mention Husso to the Oilers, but that's another name we've heard, and that's from Jim Matheson. So I could see Ville Husso going to Washington as a goalie. Maybe they find a way, they just completely abandon Vanacek and Samsonov. They have a clean slate, and then you have... Maybe you bring up Phoenix Copley as a backup, and you have Ville Husso as your goalies. I don't think that's the best tandem for the Capitals. They probably look elsewhere, maybe other than Copley. But that's something that you could see as an option. Ideally, I see Copley as the backup, and the Caps getting a legitimate starter. I think that's the direction they will go in. But Ville Husso is another name I could see being thrown in the mix there. So that's kind of what you're looking at this point, is kind of a little bit of a goalie carousel to kind of keep you guys up to date. My predictions, I see Braden Holtby going to the Oilers. Jonas Korpisalo, I think he's going to find a new home. I don't see him going to the Avalanche or the Capitals necessarily, but there could be, that could be guys on, those are names that he could be linked to. Ilya Samsonov going to the Colorado Avalanche. Again, a bit of a stretch, but there's something to that. And obviously, Darcy Kemper, I think, could end up going to the Buffalo Sabres. So these are just my predictions. Again, we still have to go through the playoffs. If these guys win cups, maybe their mentality changes from, I want to win a cup. But after they win a cup, maybe it's, okay, maybe I'll take the bag. It kind of changes, and we'll kind of get an idea of that as we get closer to free agency. But let me know what you guys think down below. Guys, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you again next time.